Please welcome Johnnie.
Awa, tēnā tātou, e mihi kana kia tātou I te rangi nei, e mihi kana ki te hau kāinga te kawarawa maki, me ki kia tātou e hui nei no reira tēnā tātou. Geez, that's a flash introduction. I'm really a tutu fella, and it's really about the doing and the practice, because sort of knowing's in the doing. But one of the things I did want to use the opportunity and just to see some thoughts, some whakaaro, and it's just been a real privilege to join the other speakers at this point. So just e mihi kana kia rātou, and in particular I just wanted to acknowledge Peter and all the work you've done. When I saw that you were on the program, I better come along too, and to you, Charmaine, and I have an old copy of that Manukau Harbour plan. And so, and similar to what Charmaine touched on, is that you really need to understand our past and the journey that we've come from, and not just that unfolding future. And I guess that part of the theme of this hui is around sharing knowledge, and I guess aroha in action and hope, but it's really challenging to really bring hope, because as a people of the Manukau, we reached our 2 degrees moment in 1864, and we've been in survival mode since that time. And so, but I wouldn't be honouring our elders if we didn't talk about aroha and hope at the same time, because they've held onto those things long before I arrived. So, and then just acknowledging Peter and I see Denny there. And again, when we see sort of our age, it just makes us think of our parents and our elders before us. So part of our story involves 3 women, Whaia Carmen Kirkwood, Ngāne Coleman Hinnick and Mahia Wilson. And so we're sort of the next generations coming through to keep the kōrero and the fires alive, if you like, and so to also listen to our rangatahi is really important, because it's an intergenerational process, and you need generations working together. We all can't do it alone, and so the importance, and seeing a lot of our white-haired people in here, our pakeke, is really important alongside our rangatahi, because that's how we bring intergenerational way of transmissioning knowledge and practice, which is really important. So I just want to introduce this whakaaro, te Whakaoranga o te Manuka. Te Manuka is a Waiohua name of the Manukau, and te Whakaoranga basically means the regeneration of oranga, the regeneration of well-being. And certainly in the way we navigate the space, whether it's the climate change, cost of living crisis, housing, at the heart of that is oranga. And sometimes in the Western way, we tend to cut up things into these ologies and functions, and we lose sight of all the interconnectedness and the wholeness. So it's really important in terms of the opportunity around, I guess, bringing those sort of dual knowledge systems together and how we navigate well-being. So in terms of one of the key themes is this whakaaro around me titiro whakamuri kia anga whakamoa. So we need to be able to reflect on our past or look back as we sort of navigate our way forward. And I guess one of the themes of the symposium today is around mahitahi, kotaitanga working together. Certainly from a mana whenua perspective, our past, we're not talking about past like yesterday, we live our past today, because our tupuna are with us, and our mokopuna are with us as well. And it was awesome. So in terms of just, I guess, locating me, so I live just across the other side of the harbour, so it took me an hour and a half to get here this morning. Seeing the picture that John presented, one of those hovercrafts would be really cool, because I could just come straight across, almost a straight line from where I live, near the mouth of the Manukau Harbour, across to Green Bay. And so this pepeha, one of our pepeha for Ngāti Tata. So for us Uinuku and Tāhoe, they're two of our primal ancestors. Some people call them atua, some people refer to them as gods, but the Manukau is the home to the rainbow Uinuku, and Tāhoe is our tupuna that causes volcanic activity within Tāmaki Makaurau. Puketapu is one of our ancestral maunga that I sort of live close to, so I get to see our maunga every day. And then on the other side of the Manukau is Mātukutareia in Wiri. Ko Ngāti Orehua, that's our name for the west coast. Ko te Manuka is our Waiohua, is our source of life, our life-giving waters. But you know, the state of the waters at the moment is not, we've seen a lot of regeneration happening, which is bringing life back, but it's been in a state of degradation for a while. Waikato is our river. Te Atarihi is the name of our tupuna, and she's a wahine, our whai. And Ngāti Tata Waiohua is our iwi. I live near the headwaters of the Tataranga Tangarau stream, which then flows into the Manukau Harbour. It sources a puna, a spring, on our neighbour's property, but it flows 3 hours down to the Manukau Harbour. And the name of our papakainga that we live on is called Turanga, which basically means like our place to stand, our place to be, our place in the universe, if you like. And then it was cool that John mentioned the Manukau report. This July is the 40th anniversary of the release of that report. So 40 years ago, 1985. At the time, the hearings in 1984 were held on Manuka at Makaurau Marae at Ihumata, and 37 of the mana whenua witnesses that spoke at the tribunal hearing, only 3 are alive today. And I guess that, you know, those things are sobering. That report happened in 1985, and we're sort of still waiting on a lot of those things to be realised. And I guess the thing too, just, you know, it's a bit timely that the tribunal is going to be under review. And the interesting thing that it was established in 1975 on the back of a whole lot of movement, Māori Land March, a whole lot of things, and the government at the time. But when it was established in 1975, it could only investigate contemporary current issues. It wasn't until 1985 that the government of the day gave it retrospective powers to actually look back to historical issues to 1840. And the Manukau report was one of the key reports that shifted that. Because when you, and I really support what John mentioned around actually reading it, because the tribunal couldn't just look at the contemporary issues around the Manukau Harbour at that time, the development of the airport, the sewage works, all those sort of things. It had to put it into context back to 1864. And so, and the other key thing that came out of that inquiry was the term kaitiakitanga. So it's a natural term we hear every day today, but from the Manukau report, the mana whenua of the harbour anchored around kaitiakitanga as their key point of advocacy. And then that led to the 1980 reforms in terms of the RMA and kaitiakitanga and things like that. So today it's like a common part of our parlance, but in 1984 it was something new. It was something old to iwi, but it was something new in terms of bringing light. And kaitiakitanga are our fundamentals, obligations and responsibilities of mana whenua to the whakapapa systems or the whole living systems that sit within our respective tribal areas. It's not about rights, it's about obligations, responsibilities. But since that time, it's become a battle of rights. But our old people that anchored it was around obligation, responsibility. So from a mana whenua perspective, we're not coming to take over the show. All we're seeking is the recognition and our space to be able to exercise and express our obligations, responsibilities to the whakapapa system that sustains all of us. People, place, nature. That's what we mean by whakapapa. So that's all we're seeking. And so, and then the other key thing that came out of that, again, is around a call, and it's in the report, around the establishment of a kaitiaki guardian rōpū for the harbour. And you saw in John's presentation that the Auckland Council is just starting to explore the possibility. You know, so that was 40 years ago that was stated. We're now, 40 years later, just starting to, you know, and this is not about governance, co-governance, because I hate that term, because it's a big distraction. It's really about kaitiakitanga and guardianship at the heart for all of us to do that together. You know, it gets distracted by, because the problem with councils, and I've spent 20 years from Auckland Regional Council to Auckland Council, that we bureaucratise that stuff into tables and systems that take away from the essence of what it's all about. You know, so what's being reflected by our young people, all the work that many of you are doing across the harbour, that's guardianship and kaitiakitanga if we've got mana whenua involved. That's the essence of what we're talking about. Whainaniko, you know, she was the, she put the Y8 claim on behalf of the harbour tribes, and together with Whaia Carmen and Whaia Mahia, they were like our contemporary taniwha of the harbour. You know, so Auntie Carmen saw the last in the physical realm with us, you know, but they still continue to guide and influence as kaitiaki of us in our work, and many other people, but also Whaia Manukau was really clear about actually the institution, tradition of kaitiaki, you know, and it doesn't stand alone, it's interconnected, it's interrelated, and basically to know kaitiaki is to know our place, to know those connections, and I guess just to emphasise that, you know, kaitiakitanga is a tapu obligation and responsibility, and not to trample on the mana of anyone else, but within our context on the Manukau, only mana whenua can express kaitiakitanga. So, after looking back, ko te pai tāwhiti whaia kia tata, ko te pai tata whakamaa kia tina. So this is sort of the unfolding feature in that, you know, while we're navigating to aiming for distant horizons, we want to harness and capture those things immediately before us. And what's really exciting to sit in today is all the stories from all the speakers around all the pai tata things that are happening. You know, because 40 years ago, that wasn't the state of the harbour. So over 40 years, just being able to recognise the movement. It might be micro movement, but it's movement, and it's movement together. And I want to acknowledge a couple of things from a couple of speakers. So Cassie talked about aroha in action and about hope. I think the key thing, and often aroha in a contemporary sense is reflected as love, compassion, empathy. But one of the codings in aroha is this whakaro, aro ki te ha. So aro is to turn towards and focus. Ha is the essence of each other, the essence of place. So aroha ki te Manuka is turn to focus on the essence of the Manuka when we think about aroha in action. The other thing we want to talk about, just mention in terms of the term rangatahi. So we often think, young person. But the thing is, in all the work that we heard them talk about, ranga means to weave, tahi means together. Not just number one, but so what they demonstrated in the way they come together as young people is the practice of weaving togetherness. And in their karanga or challenge to us, because they did say the old people in the room, is around being able to weave together across generations. Because we know in this work, we need at least 3 generations working together. Doesn't mean they have to be in the same whānau, but at least because the wisdom and lived experience of our elders, together with the innovation and provocation from our young people, that's where the magic happens. And it's really important that we think across generations in that way. So, te Whakaoranga te Puhinui, that was a kaupapa we started in 2018-19. It's a regenerative kaupapa for that part of the Manukau catchment. It has a 50-year sort of whakaaro. We were sort of challenged over, don't call it years, let's think about generations. Because Charmaine mentioned about time. Got to really shift our relationship to time. And so it's a long-term sort of focus. It's mana whenua anchored for the first time in Auckland Council's history, which is just 15 years this year. They asked mana whenua to anchor and lead the kaupapa. Not just co-partner, co-navigate. So we were a bit taken aback by that. The other exciting thing, and this is sometimes where bureaucracies get caught up, is Auckland Council has a list of 19 mana whenua of Auckland. And they tend to engage with 19 mana whenua of Auckland for a lot of the projects. Part of the development of a more nuance is understanding who are the iwi of the whenua, and then anchor there, not from a list. And the exciting thing that happened in the Puhinui is the 16 other mana whenua said to the 3 Waiohua iwi, hey, that's your space. You fellas lead it. We'll just support and tautoko. So if there's space given for mana whenua, we'll be able to sort out some of those challenges ourselves. And so at the heart of this is around kaitiakitanga and guardianship. And I guess how we plan the work around the Puhinui is a sort of, to use that human-centred design word, it's a prototype for how we work then across the rest of the catchment. Awa by awa, stream by stream. And so Ngāi Māngere is another great example. But we still need together is to create both an overarching and underpinning view of it. Like the view from the kahu and the view from the whai, to understand where we are, because we're really flash at turning everything into projects and functionalising everything, but remember it's the harbour that connects it all. So te Whakaoranga o te Manuka is an overarching and underpinning sort of lens for us to think about how we can co-navigate, and to Peter's point, the real magic is around how we bring Western science together with mātauranga Māori, indigenous knowledge systems, to weave and navigate that unfolding future together. Because in a Waiohua sense, we have 1,000-year kōrero to go with this space. We've only been impacted in the Western sense in the last 200 years. And certainly in terms of that way of weaving and navigating knowledge, that's the real opportunity. That's got nothing to do with politics, that's got nothing to do with the current coalition government, it's got nothing with toitu, te tuiti and all that other stuff. This is about real stuff on the whenua, in the harbour, that impacts on all of us and our mokopuna. And so just to finish, we're talking about what I call a binocular lens, not a bicultural, a binocular. And the thing, like a pair of binoculars, is that little knob in the middle that you've got to titu with to bring both into focus. And it's not really focusing on the binocular themselves, it's really about how do we get a shared view into the unfolding future informed by our past. And what we can focus on is oranga, well-being, Oranga whakapapa, so the well-being of our whole living systems. Oranga taiao, the well-being of nature. Oranga whenua, the well-being of place. And the oranga tangata, the well-being of people. And I just really want to acknowledge the mahi that Peter's doing in the Pacific, because the work we got to do as the iwi in relation to Auckland's climate plan, te tarupia tāwhiri. What that refers to is the frustrations of tāwhiri and all these weather events and that is tāwhiri's frustration over poor human activity. And if we're not going to heed the nudge from our human ancestors, we're heading off the cliff. And I guess the key thing is that when we developed that with the 19 iwi partnering of council, and often what people don't understand, that they just see mana whenua word and council. They don't understand that when we say mana whenua, that's 19 iwi, but I have to relearn how to co-partner with each other in order to co-partner with the council, let alone the 21 local boards as well. You know, so it's just understanding what sits behind some of those words, those bureaucratic buzzwords. And so one of the key principles that mana whenua acknowledged was our whananga in the Pacific, because beyond the Manukau is te mora nui a kiwa. That's another whakapapa system. And one of the things is when they use the term climate refugees, which is a Western label, we see it as whānau from another part of our place coming home to another part. And so one of those principles was really acknowledging the whanangatanga and whakapapa connection between mana whenua and our whānau of the Pacific. So when you start to think about from an indigenous framing, it brings things together, not only to deal with the reality, but try to bring hope to a hopelessness situation where many of our whānau can't put kai on the table, don't have a registration for a car, let alone whether they have a car. And so you know, a lot of this poverty that a lot of our whānau experience, that's part of oranga that we have to address. And so the interconnectedness of these systems. So, I roto e tēnā mihi kana koe. I live in a state of wā, but it's hard to sit within a 10-minute time frame. And, but that's the tikanga of this hui today. But I roto e tēnā mihi kana kia tātou. And I just want to leave you with this final thought of te whakaoranga o te Manuka. Kia ora tātou.